Longing for Triumph's like the first album I've listened to from you guys, and it's like one of my favorite albums this year. So I'm not quite as knowledgeable as Ryan is with this. So one of the questions I've got is, I'm like really receptive to anything horror. So no matter what medium, whether it's film, music, video games, whatever, my brain's really receptive to it. Like sort of dark, creepy tones and sounds and stuff. So with this new record, when I was listening to it, I got like it sounded like a soundtrack to me. So when you're writing an album, do you have that sort of intention in mind on top of all the other influences that you have?
I can speak for the music on the music side. I always want to have some sort of musical narrative. Like because I'm coming from, like I was saying earlier, the old school days in the '80s. Bands, maybe into the night, bands wrote albums that weren't just a collection of songs, but like they were very carefully planned where the sound was going to go from the first song to the second song. It's taking the listener on kind of a journey. And I'm also a very big fan of movie soundtracks, like you were saying. So, yeah, when I write an album, I plan it as much as possible to have sort of a cinematic flow almost, where it goes through a bunch of different moods. It has one mood for a while, like, and then I'm always cautious of, okay, well, it's been kind of this way for a while. I think we need to change something up. Pacing, like the way directors pace their shows or pace their movies. I like to try and pace an album so people, so that, if for my own, for my own purposes, like that's how I wanted to sound, but also keeping the listener in mind. Like I don't want people to get ear fatigued hearing blasting for too long, or it's been quiet for a little too long. People are starting to zone out, or it's. I like to keep changing things up, but in sort of a naturally progressive way rather than a herky jerky, just go off and stick weird things together that don't go together and have it sound too schizophrenic. It's it's a big sticking point to me that the albums have a flow in a very similar manner to when you're watching a movie or watching a show, how it just kind of takes you on a journey from start to finish. And it's also why we haven't done an EP or a split yet, is because I always thought that but they always sounded like incomplete thoughts to me. There's very 100%. There's very few EPs that I think contribute or are like a necessary contribution to an artist's catalog. Slayer's Haunting the Chapel is like the only one that I can think of where I really think that that's like a solid entry to their catalog and not just like an afterthought. But most EPs and things that they with one or two songs or maybe a handful of songs, they just sound like afterthoughts, that stuff left over from the previous recording session to try and squeeze a little more money out of people before before they write the next album. And I want to avoid that at all costs.
I definitely agree with that. Agree with that.
And Chris, you have something going on as far as speaking of narrative. You're doing the characters are on this continuing journey from beginning with album one. So that's a big thing with you as well, right?
Yeah. There's a whole concept involved with the albums, and on top of the concept, then if you take any of the spiritual occult stuff that is laced in there, you can follow that. You can follow along with the characters and the main concept. But there's so many different little Easter eggs in there in general that we don't play out. We try to keep on a pretty steady schedule because of the fact we don't play out or tour or anything. Like we don't want to oversaturate and overstay our welcome, but we also want to make sure that we do have music to release so that we can kind of stay in people's minds. And we do approach it, I think, on a deeper level than a lot of bands do because of those things, but also because you might want to go back to the Duality, of Decapitation, and Wisdom a few times, or some of the other albums because of these things. And personally, the Duality, that one is very heavy, and it's gonna, I think, take some people quite a while. If you want to go in and really try to discover things, there's a lot to discover there. And we really try to do that with each album. 8 was kind of taken aback a little bit because seven was difficult. But 8 has, again, a lot of Easter eggs to it. Not only just for the concept, but there are callbacks to different bands or movies. That I try to tie into the concept that is a little more lighthearted than how deep the subject matter is. So we try to really put something out that is memorable and will stick around. It's not just one song or two songs that you like. We hope that you can experience the album, and that in experiencing it each time you find something new, which makes you want to listen to it again because there might be something else there that you hadn't heard the first time, which then brings a whole nother thing. He mixes the vinyls completely differently than he does with the digital CDs, so that you're getting that uncompressed, more natural sound. So it is worth picking up that vinyl because it does sound different. It has a different kind of mood to it because of the different mix. Since a vinyl, I think, is at the heart of good listening, and I think especially with metal, vinyl brings out a lot. I think if you throw on a Jay-Z album on vinyl, you're not going to pick out too much, but with a lot of the metal, especially, like, I'd rather listen to Watain or Leviathan on a vinyl than listening to it on my iPhone. It has a different essence, a different power about it.
So I'm actually waiting on my vinyl. I got one of Longing. I ordered it a few weeks. Well, not a few weeks, maybe last week. Waiting on that, so I can't wait to get that. I tried to get Duality, but it was sold out.
I have some. I can get you hooked up.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Duality. We usually get our CD and vinyl, because we get a certain percentage of the stock. Like, we don't get paid for sales, but what Kunal will do is he'll set aside a certain like a small percentage of the CDs and the vinyl stock, and then he'll send those to us. We can sell those and keep the money
Gotcha.
for them, and that's sort of our payment for for the vinyls and the stock. But I think the Bandcamp page said that they were aiming to have the vinyls for Longing out by the 20th or the 21st. I don't know if they met that deadline. I haven't heard any announcements. We usually get our stock, a few or several months, after that. So that we'll eventually have ours. And if you need something, hit us up. We'll have some probably by spring.